What would you do if you discovered that the ground beneath your feet, the very street you walked on, the floor of your house, was filled with gold? Not metaphorical gold, not fool's gold. Real, glittering, life-changing gold worth hundreds of dollars per day when most men earned pennies. This isn't a hypothetical question. It actually happened in a small California town in 1848, and the answer to that question transformed a muddy mining camp into the most notorious, prosperous, and wildly unpredictable town in the American West. Today, we're diving into the golden heart of Placerville, a place where fortunes appeared overnight, where justice came at the end of a rope, and where three future business titans learned the secrets that would make them millionaires. This is the story of how gold fever built an empire, one shovelful at a time. Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join us as we explore the rugged landscapes, uncover hidden historical gems, and dive deep into the lost gold legends and gold mining history of this iconic region. Please leave a like or comment. This is very helpful. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. June 1848. The California gold rush was barely 4 months old, but the hills were already swarming with dreamers. Along the forks of the American River, Native Americans carried an electrifying rumor, a new placer deposit yielding 6 ounces per man per day. In modern terms, that's $96 daily, over $3,000 in today's money, for a single worker with nothing but a pan and determination. The effect was instantaneous and absolute. Imagine 1,000 men simultaneously abandoning productive gold claims, scrambling over hills and through canyons, driven by nothing but whispered numbers. Within 7 days, previously profitable mining sites stood completely empty, while a new camp below the South Fork exploded with humanity. They called it dry diggings, and it was about to become ground zero for California's transformation. But here's what made this place different from every other gold camp. The gold kept coming. Even when the summer heat dropped river levels and miners had to carry their ore several hundred yards to reach water, backbreaking, time-consuming labor, they still pulled 2 to 4 ounces daily. Then came the bonanzas. Random miners would strike rich pockets, and suddenly everyone crowded in, shoulder to shoulder, some taking several $100s in a single day. Picture the scene. Ragged, filthy, bearded men standing in icy mountain water, barefoot, shoveling endless loads of sand and rock into long wooden troughs called long toms. The constant noise of rushing water, the scrape of shovels against stone, the shouts when someone spotted color in their pan. These were, in the words of one observer, the happiest set of men on earth. They had every reason to be. The ground was literally vomiting wealth. By winter 1849, something shifted. Gold remained in dry diggings, but not enough. Not enough to satisfy everyone. Not enough to keep desperate men honest. That's when 5 men made a catastrophic mistake. They broke into a gambler's room, pressed a pistol to his head, and robbed him blind. The response was swift and merciless. 200 miners formed a vigilance court. The thieves received 35 lashes each. But then came the revelation that 3 of these men faced additional charges: robbery and attempted murder on the Stanislaus River. A miners' jury heard the evidence and delivered their verdict: guilty. The acting judge turned to the crowd. "What shall be done with them?" One voice rang out above the others. "Hang them!" One miner mounted a stump, pleading desperately against lynch law. Nobody listened. The 3 condemned men were placed in a wagon, driven beneath a tree on the main street, and each fitted with a noose around their neck. At the signal, the wagon lurched forward, leaving 3 bodies swinging in the Sierra wind. It was the first recorded lynching on the mother lode. Overnight, dry diggings earned a new name that would echo through history: Hangtown. And here's the dark irony: the name worked. Bad men walked carefully through Hangtown streets. The threat of summary justice, backed by gold-rich miners who had everything to lose from chaos, kept the peace more effectively than any sheriff ever could. But gold doesn't just buy violence. It also purchases civilization, and Hangtown was about to discover what that meant. As the mines continued producing, the town metamorphosed. Regular stagecoaches arrived in 1851, bringing passengers to hotels that offered tablecloths and silver service, luxuries unimaginable just 3 years earlier in a tent camp. An imaginative cook, probably drunk on the town's prosperity, threw together eggs, bacon, oysters, and other ingredients into something called a Hangtown fry. The dish became so famous that San Francisco restaurants had to add it to their menus just to satisfy visiting miners. Gold didn't just change what people ate, it changed what they expected. Then families arrived, and everything shifted again. Young ladies in elaborate hoop skirts paraded through streets where 3 bodies once swung from a tree. They were, according to a popular song, dreadful shy of 49ers, turned their noses up at miners. When a temperance league and Methodist church appeared, Hangtown's lawless days were officially over. But the gold remained. In fact, prospectors discovered gold in the neighboring creek, and suddenly men were working long toms on every approach to town. Then someone struck pay dirt in the center of town itself, and chaos erupted. Miners descended with picks and shovels, tearing up Main Street, digging holes inside houses, throwing mud and stones and water in all directions. One visitor described continual noise and clatter as the entire town literally excavated itself searching for wealth. This is when the town decided its morbid nickname had to go. With gold discovered everywhere and miners standing barefoot in icy streams throughout the surrounding hills, the place was defined by its placer operations, not its hanging tree. In 1850, the California legislature granted a new name, Placerville. The town's placers began fading by the mid-1850s, but gold has a way of opening other doors. Placerville became the roaring terminus of the Overland Trail, the destination for thousands of covered wagons carrying fortune seekers from Missouri. These travelers had crossed 2,300 miles of American desert and climbed over the lofty Sierra Nevada. When one wagon train drew near and heard a rooster crow, that simple, forgotten sound of civilization, the entire convoy halted and the men erupted in celebration. They had reached the gateway to California's gold. What they found was hardly impressive. One long, straggling street of clapboard houses and log cabins, blocked with mining excavations and knee-deep mud puddles. The only pavement consisted of discarded boots, empty oyster tins, broken picks, and ham bones. 6-horse stages, bearded miners, and plodding mule teams all fought for space in this narrow, chaotic thoroughfare. But the general stores, those were something special. These establishments served as saloon, grocery, hardware shop, and social hall combined. Behind a counter that doubled as a bar, you'd find whiskey bottles stacked beside canned fish, pickles, and gunpowder. 1 ounce of gold dust, $16, bought a pound of powder, a chicken, or a bottle of champagne. Storekeepers sat at rough tables playing cards with miners for the drinks, and customers with good credit could spend entire snowy days in these retreats. One surviving daybook page tells the story perfectly. Mr. Boyer's tab included 2 drinks, tobacco, more drinks, a pie, 5 more drinks, another pie, and drinks. Total, $6.25. As the article notes, there's no record of one final necessity, a stretcher. But here's where Placerville's story becomes genuinely extraordinary. 3 men arrived in this muddy, gold-obsessed town and learned lessons that would reshape American industry. Mark Hopkins opened a grocery store in 1849. The profits from selling supplies to miners taught him about capital, logistics, and the power of controlling infrastructure. He became one of the Big Four railroad builders, the first to span the Sierra Nevada with tracks. Philip D. Armour worked as a butcher, recognizing that miners needed to eat and would pay premium prices for fresh meat. Those lessons about supply chains and consumer demand launched him toward building a meatpacking empire. John M. Studebaker made wheelbarrows for miners, saving $4,000 in the process. He took that seed money to South Bend, Indiana, and started a wagon-building business. Gold didn't just make these men rich, it taught them how wealth actually worked. In 1859, everything reversed. The fabulous Comstock lode erupted in Nevada's Washoe country, and suddenly the human tide that had flowed into California turned around and stampeded back over the Sierra. Placerville became the main outfitting point for silver-crazed miners, and the town nearly exploded from the pressure. Hills above town piled high with merchandise boxes, while owners offered fantastic freight fees to anyone who could haul goods over the mountain. Stagecoaches and mule trains were booked days in advance. The streets thronged with noisy crowds of expectant millionaires recharged by dreams of another bonanza. Placerville even aspired to become a railroad center, but the track stopped at Shingle Springs, a few miles short. The rival Central Pacific Line pushed successfully over the Sierra, and after 1867, Placerville lost its traffic to the railroads. The golden era, literally and figuratively, was over. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.